Okay.
All right, now we're back on. Hello, everybody, and sorry for the technical glitch. Natalie, you had just been saying that your students are particularly interested in Paul's guides and the animals. So I wanted to pick up on that, actually, so with the guides in particular, because we were really excited about this. So our aim, we talked with Paul about this, and it's actually synchronous with where he's thinking of going with his writing and the walk anyway. We would really like to incorporate the guides' voices more into our learning materials and curriculum and resources, because we think it's really important for the students to see that, you know, Paul's perspective is one perspective as he takes his walk, but it would be really nice to complement what Paul's writing about and what he sees with the voices of the guides. And so Vito's was, you know, kind of a step in that direction. We already know that some of the other guides are interested in communicating with students, and we're hoping to get them at some point for a Google Plus Hangout. We're just really hoping, even the guides who've been before, it would just be really great to have them as a kind of a resource and in the mix. And I'll also say that some of you have probably seen the dispatch featuring Murat's photography, the Turkish photographer, and actually some of the other guides as well were accomplished photographers. That's the start of something new. National Geographic want to have a gallery of guides, so that will be a great resource for us moving forward. And Paul increasingly wants to walk with artists. That might be photographers, painters, or the writers. I mean, the medium is very open, but I think that's a lovely idea, and it's going to be terrific for Out of Eden Learn, I think, because we can infuse, for those who are interested, I think we could do much more with infusing the arts into some of you know, the work that we offer, or the learning journeys that there are. So that's exciting, I think, moving forward. And then with the animals, honestly, I don't think it's just kids who are interested in the animals. Part of it is the, you know, caricature, the mule is very appealing and attractive, and that's, you know, a lovely story that Paul wrote about what happened to caricature. And but I think also Paul's relationship with animals, he actually spent time working with animals in his youth in Mexico. I think that Paul has a special affinity with animals, and he really does care about them, and so that's a kind of an appealing part of his writing and the walk, which we wouldn't necessarily get from a different writer who didn't have that same affinity. Oh, and one other thing before I forget is that the saddle that Caricature was using, and which in your class has seen, actually, Natalie, right? Because you did, you tried out a thinking routine for us with a picture, where it's been a little laborious and not without its technical hitches, but that saddle is being shipped to the US, and from now on, generously supported actually by Abundance, who fund Out of Eden Learn, there's going to be a much more concerted effort to collect artifacts from Paul's walk. So kind of things that, gifts he's given along the way, objects that he uses, with a particular focus on things that have been crafted and adapted and kind of used on the walk, with the aim to have a virtual gallery, but also hopefully a physical, one day a physical museum display documenting the walk. So that's, Shari's taking the lead on that, but we also hope to be doing more with some of the objects around Paul's walk and making those available for educators and having learning activities related to those.
Liz, I just wanted to say something about that. I'm thrilled about the art, and I'm thrilled about the artifacts, because sometimes the dispatches, from a language and a vocabulary standpoint, sometimes it's pretty sophisticated for my 10 and 11-year-olds, and the idea of the art and the artifacts, the images, to be able to write about that and to show their thinking, I think is going to bring on a lot of really interesting kind of dialogue with some of the other students in our walking party.
Yeah, actually, thank you for saying that. I think that is an important point, and I think moving forward we want to be in dialogue with teachers as well about what opportunities do you see in your classroom for bringing those on board, because, you know, it's so obvious that there's so much expertise, and that those of you who are here, you know, on the screen now have just taken what we put out there and done your own thing with them. So thank you. That's great. Carlo, if you want to type in a question, that would be great, because so email Shea. Shea's right here. She says email Shea. That would be the easiest way, and we'd love to hear. Yeah, Pam and your colleagues, I don't know if you will want to introduce yourselves. Do you want to say a bit about what you've been doing with Out of Eden then?
Sure, let's go ahead and introduce who we have here. So, I'm going to introduce you. I'm Jeannie.
Jeannie. Hi, Jeannie.
From Wisconsin, and we have really taken off. This is our second year, well, the second year, and we've done so much with it. I don't even know how. We personalized our entire social studies and reading. We just had a culture fair on Friday where we had speakers come in from all over the world. The children brought in food, and they loved the Google Hangout with Paul and him answering. He tweeted one of our questions back to us. It was about the theme of happiness in humanity. And
oh, yes, that was a very good question, yeah.
We do not know which child actually wrote it.
Actually, do you mind just coming a bit closer to the microphone, because it's hard to hear you.
Not normally my problem not being loud enough. But anyway, it's really been fun. And, you know, I've been teaching for a very long time, and I've really never been so excited about it. This is keeping me from retiring. I love it. I love personalized learning, and I love how this has just really been the catalyst for so many changes in our school and in our children. And it's just really bringing the whole theme of humanity together, and celebrating differences and understanding. And you know, it goes even to world peace when it really comes to thinking about our 8-year-olds. In 10 years, they'll be at voting age, and they're thinking about things that are really very adult. And what causes people to fight with each other? Well, it's usually because of misunderstanding. And the most that we can understand each other, we're committed to understanding other cultures now, and we'll be less likely to fight with them if we understand them. That's what I'm feeling my third graders are really getting and blowing my mind, because it makes me feel like we really are here for a very big purpose, and we're very proud to be part of it. So it's very, we take great pride in being part of this whole big part of Out of Eden. So.
Great, thank you, Jeannie. Can I just because I was so interested in what you said, I read a very moving introduction from one of our participant students in Iraq, and she actually said, I feel like oftentimes people have a very bad impression of Iraq. They think it's so dangerous and it's all bad, and it really matters to me that some people hear about the good bits of Iraq and what our lives are really like. And I kind of found that pretty moving, actually, that this is an opportunity for kids to have some authentic dialogue with one another and have a genuine curiosity about seeing people as people, I guess.
You would be interested, because we had kids that they had to, the premise of their assignment was to compare and contrast two different cultures, and some of the children did pick Rahm, Iraq, Kosovo, Afghanistan, Bulgaria, China, and Japan. But they got into, they had to compare and contrast. There were 9 to 11 different topics, and one of them was beliefs. So religion did get into it, and politics, not so much in 3rd grade, but they did talk about the different religions and what they believed. And they did it very neutrally. It was just like, isn't that interesting? So that's what I want. I want it to be not charged, emotionally charged. You want it to be just facts, and isn't that interesting? That will open up their minds to accepting different people. So.
Great. Yeah. So do you want? Sorry, I interrupted you introducing yourself.
I'm Lisa Ike. I'm one of the 3rd grade team members, and I just feel like this program is really opening our students' eyes up to the world around them and seeing that there is a bigger picture. I'm really
Great. Can we make sure we're near the microphone? Yeah.
Oh, great. I'm Laurie Klein. I'm also a third grade teacher here at Netherwood in Oregon. And I think what our students are enjoying, my classroom is enjoying the different footsteps that we're doing. And they're working on their neighborhoods, they're working on the area around the school, and paying closer attention to the details around us, which I think we drive by every day and we don't really notice the old Victorian houses or the old brick buildings in our downtown. So the children are really starting to be proud of their community and sharing some of the details and aspects. We're working on our neighborhood and getting excited to share that this fall.
Great. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Holly Carpenter, and I also teach third grade here. My students are thrilled doing the footsteps. They are making more footsteps for going beyond my expectations for them. They are taking walks around the community, and like Laurie said, noticing things that they've never really taken the time to stop and notice before. And we just did finish our culture unit, so we were exploring other countries and other cultures, but now they're taking an interest in, wow, what is the heritage and the culture of my own community that I live in? And the Out of Eden footsteps is really helping us to guide them into their own personal history. So I thank you for offering us this opportunity, because our students are really engrossed in learning and just taking it and applying it. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I think, because the voice was a bit muffled, just building off that, one thing that we'd really like to convey through Out of Eden Learn is that culture isn't something that other people have. We all have culture, and so some of our footsteps are really trying to point kids to examining the everyday around them and not thinking about othering people, or it's very exotic that other people have these traditions. So it's, from what I could hear, you know, your children are delving into their own kind of environment and their own milieu. So I just wanted now to turn to, Kaula has emailed something because the connection's a little shaky. They're from Lahore in Pakistan. Kaula, if you're listening, I just want to really extend a very warm welcome to you. And Natalie from your walking party is here on the screen. And yeah, I hope that you two and others in your walking party continue to have what appears from the little bits I've seen to be a really rich dialogue amongst yourselves. So I am just going to summarize some things here that Kaula's saying. She says, I'm an ICT teacher from Lahore Grammar School in Lahore, Pakistan. Out of Eden is my second experience, so this is the second time round, and it's turning out much better. Although I had to go through several hoops to seek my institutional support, my students are now finally experiencing Paul's journey. The first question I received from my students was, Miss, where are we going? To which I replied, wherever you wish to, your imagination is the limit. That's nice. So my students are slowly learning what it means to participate in a digital learning community as tiny digital travelers. Project Out of Eden Learn is in the table talk, whether it's at the homeroom or the lunch hours. My students are wondering, when will Paul visit Pakistan? I'm not sure, actually, Kaula. Having looked at the map and the routes, he's definitely is going to India and China. He's having to skirt around Kashmir, which isn't very safe. But I don't know, so watch this space, because Paul's route is certainly evolving. And he's actually fine with that, and I think it's part of the interest and attraction of this. You know, real-world stuff on the ground happens, and Paul responds. So let's see. Yes, so yes, and then there's some other things that Kaula will reply to because there are particular questions. But so thank you for that. And Kaula, I just want to say that I was chatting with Rob. Everybody is so admiring of that beautiful map of Lahore, which we do have featured a bit on our social media. So I just wanted to give a shout out there, because that is a particularly beautiful neighborhood map that a lot of people have seen. Rob, do you want to chime in at this point? I was just thinking about other people are saying now teaching's invigorated. I know that you were doing a lot of interesting stuff before you reached Out of Eden Learn. You were talking earlier about how you've incorporated Out of Eden Learn into some of your own professional development and stuff you were already doing in your classroom. Can you say that? Rob, are we able? Did you hear that?
You want me to start? Okay. Yes, actually, I'm Rob. I'm in Chennai, India, in the south of India. I'm in an international school here. I teach 6th grade. The Out of Eden project is actually a final project for advanced certificate in educational technology that I'm doing for a program called COTAB through SUNY Buffalo. I do this project anyways. I'm thrilled to do it. The students are engaged. They really enjoy it. They enjoy the walking parties. So for me, it's part of my PD, but it's also become a big part of my class, and they're enjoying it. And we just finished doing our neighborhood maps recently, and as many people said, it allowed them to become connected to their neighborhood and their environment. And some of the students, I think they have not much experience walking around their neighborhood. They're used to going from their gated house, their community, straight to school, and they live in a bit of a bubble. And they're expatriates here. We have a lot of students from Japan, Korea, France, from about 30 different countries. So I think there's a bit of a disconnect between their lives and the local community. And certainly India has a lot of poverty, which is not easy to handle for some students. So I think it was a very good opportunity for them to do this now.
Great. And could you just, I know you've posted it on the forum, but could you just say a little bit about how you organised the gallery walk after the neighbourhood that they'd done their maps? Because I thought that was nice practice for others too.
Yeah. Our school is focusing very much on visible learning techniques, which actually comes from Project Zero, and we just did a gallery walk, and I just posted something this morning on the educator forum with some links on how it works. But we invited some special guests. We had the head of the school, we had some principals, tech innovators. We also invited their teachers from last year, and also their language arts teacher who they'll have next year to come and see what they're working on. All the students were shared their work. They had it on their desk. They had their stories. We helped the students present the project, the purpose of Paul's Walk, and students had post-it notes, sticky notes that went around and did assessment. We have a lot of English language learners, so I helped them out with some sentence stems to make it a little bit easier for them. And what I did is I shared it out on our classroom blog, which I also linked up on the educator forum today. So I happened to tweet that out. I'm new to Twitter. I tweeted that out. There's a couple of hashtags and a feed walk. And the that I mentioned earlier is the photographer John Stanmeyer, who was taking several of photos of Paul. He replied back and saw the link, and so the students were quite excited to hear about that today and to see that there's an authentic audience and a group of people who are seeing their work outside of the school and outside the walking park.
And Pam, I saw some lovely work that you put together, which included the students talking about their maps. Do you want to say a bit about how you did that for other teachers?
Sure. We use a program called Voice Learn, and so the students actually, they worked with the art teacher to begin their neighborhood maps, and then they were able to expand on that and take that home and work in the classroom. We kind of started out with the art teacher, and then because we have around 90 to 100 students, we just kind of took a sampling from each class, and then those students came and they record their voice to their drawing of their map. So yeah, we talked about how just looking at the map, people don't see the story you have on your map. So hearing that story along with the drawing was very helpful. And we do see things that before. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if there's time for questions or things that I was wondering about with Out of eLearn.
Sure, go ahead.
So I think we started this year with Out of eLearn like at the end of February, and I think we have about 5 or 6 schools in our walking party. However, it's been very slow to kind of get some posts in there. I mean, we have our posts in there, but there's maybe a student that is doing homeschooling that is putting a post in there. Other than that, not seeing much
Interactions, are you talking about?
So we're, like we said, we're down with our crosshair unit right now, and we're doing more with going through Paul's walk and kind of looking at some of his patches and things. But I think if we don't have that communication, and I've reached out through email to those teachers, then there's going to be a disconnect because they really want to connect with students, and it's been a struggle.
Yeah, so let me speak to that because let's just say we're here in Cambridge, we put groups together, and there is considerable variation across in terms of which walking parties do we get deeper interactions happening, where are there somewhere things kind of are slow and peter out. And Natalie herself can testify to this because she's previously had an experience where there really wasn't so much happening. One thing I can say, and we can take this offline, but I'll just put it out there, we recently changed the structure behind the scenes stuff out of the Out of eLearn website to make it easier to move classes around, because before we were just the way it was built, it made it extremely difficult for us to, if you were in a class and it wasn't optimal, moving you across just was a complete nightmare on the back end. So that's been altered, so we can look into maybe if really things are not working out in your walking party, switching you into one where we think there'd be better dialogue, or maybe like you, there are some very high quality work and students want more interaction or want more direct connection. And I'll take this opportunity to say that there's so much you can do on our website, and also we have certain IRB restrictions around protecting students' privacy, but we totally encourage classes where connections form to, for example, Skype one another, to have separate conversation or way of contact. So be in touch with us and we'll see what we can do. I will say, there are quite a lot of walking parties. Shea is really good at keeping on top of what's going on. I personally, I'm not monitoring every single thing that's posted in our different groups right now, but I want to acknowledge that that's one piece that very hard for us to predict. We try and get as diverse walking parties as possible with a similar age, and then things unfold. So I apologize that maybe the interaction's not been as robust in your walking party, but we'll work with us and we'll try and kind of find a solution for that, shall we say.
That sounds really great. I appreciate that, and I think that will definitely help. I did notice, like last fall, when I just had automatically gotten signed up because I signed up for a group, I guess trying to find the timing of when we were doing it, and from last year's experience, it took a month or so. So I think when I signed up was the end of November, and then all of a sudden it started, and they're like, oh, we're not ready. So I don't know if other people are still trying to figure that out, the timing, and then they can't participate at that time. So, it could be a little of both.
Yeah, so I mean, we're always looking for, people who've got suggestions. One thing, and I'll just put this out there, we're committed to offering this free and being as inclusive as possible, but some people have suggested to us it's maybe a little too easy to, we welcome everybody, we do ask people to confirm and just establish they really want to do it. But unlike a lot of other programs where, maybe there's more cost involved or commitment, or you're going to get certification or something, I don't know what it would be, that maybe by making the threshold a bit higher, there would be more, oh my goodness, we're in and we'll definitely follow through, and we really owe it to the other people in our walking party to make sure that, we have as great interactions as we can. So we're certainly open to ideas, just because we have some fantastic interactions going on, but before we set off the walking party, it's not always easy for us to predict where the great combinations are going to happen and where sometimes, there's a bit of a, disconnect. I do want to bring in Kaola's voice again, because she's now emailed another comment, so if I can just read this out. So she says, I view Out of Eden Learn as an inclusive learning space. I noticed so I had to seek transcripts for videos when teaching my former homeschool student who's hard of hearing by birth. Naturally, I would have gone the extra mile by transcribing, but my own limitation, it was too hard. So I knew I could send in recommendations to the project team, since their coordinators are available. So the inclusive learning space in the form of annotated articles, audio instructions, and easy-to-understand instructions, I believe holds a potential for including students with mild and other learning disabilities. Moreover, as Rob Martin from Chennai mentioned, how his ELL students benefited along, since this project contains real-life tasks and a realistic audience participation. And so thank you for extending your project audience to South Asia. And can I say, Kaola, thank you very much for helping to extend our audience and participants, because it's very, very important to realise the full potential of Out of Eden Learn, that we do have participants from around the world. Just to respond to that, some of you may have noticed we've put in some audio versions of our instructions to try and help students for whom the text is a little bit daunting. I'm sure there's room for improvement on that. I think with the latest annotations we did on the dispatches, I want to give a shout out to Shea, our new project coordinator, because she has a background in ELL and I think had a much more sensitive eye to how people who weren't fluent in English might have trouble interpreting Paul's work. So it's something we're trying to work on, would like to be inclusive. I'll come on to another development in a minute, but Rob, do you have something to say about how students who are maybe not so fluent in English, how they're experiencing? Or how do you try and scaffold their participation?
Well, first I want to mention that I noticed with this most recent project that quite a few of the beginner English language learners really had a chance to shine. Some of the quieter ones who maybe aren't the loudest ones in class, the ones who are not tech savvy, they really took a lot of pride in their work, and they worked really hard. And it was one of the girls, Tsukio, a Japanese girl, was very quiet. She was very proud to see that her map was chosen for your Instagram site. So she was quite excited about that. So I think it gives students like English language learners a chance to shine. So I'm fortunate that I have a co-teacher. I have small classes. I'm able to give a lot of attention to the kids, and to when we take our time going through it. I like the fact that that on the first part of the first part of each footstep, there is a blog that we respond to or reflect on, and that there is a selection for English language learners with some descriptions of vocabulary. So I find that helpful. But you know, I got hardworking students, and I would just try to give them as much attention and try to help them out where needed. So.
Great. I'll just say, and I've said this before on this forum, one thing that's been quite moving for us is that we hear time and time again that students who don't always shine in the classroom, who've got learning disabilities, or maybe just don't always find their voice, oftentimes they really respond incredibly positively to Out of Eden Learn. And I myself have interviewed students who've said that for the first time they felt that people were listening to them and that they had their voice. And I personally find that, we didn't go in planning that, shall I say, but for me, that I love to hear that. So great. And thank you for the shout out to Instagram as well. I'll just say that now because it's featured just uniquely at student work. We really would like to build up our audience, and it's very, very sweet. We have a student audience in mind because we hear that lots of students are on Instagram. So if we could just get the word out and try and increase our numbers and get a bit of excitement about that, that would be great. Sorry, Natalie.
Yes, I just wanted to say something. Now I just forgot. It was something that you said earlier that got me very excited. Oh yes, now I remember. So I have almost 50 kids total in my class, and it's team taught. I have a math and science teacher, and then I teach English language arts and social studies. Now with that, we have conferences, and in the very beginning of the year, every single parent upon the conference, and I had all the parents show up this year for conferences, every single one of them said thank you for this Out of Eden project that you're involved with, because they talked about how it's bringing them together at the dinner table. And so there's that family dinner project, but they're having conversations. They're talking when they're traveling now. They're having a bigger understanding of their place as far as this world and how they're connected. And they're asking these questions of their parents. And I thought it was so interesting because during those conferences, that's what they wanted to talk to me about, was Out of Eden Learn. And so I think that shows that it has legs in the community and it's making a difference in the social emotional pieces of families. And as we all know, I mean, the family dinner table is broken up with so many different activities these days, and the fact that that's what they were sharing, I think, was very, very powerful.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and I'll just give a shout out for Learning Journey 2, which some of you are doing now, because some of those activities we've run through before. Actually, some of those conversations end up being very important in families talking about the past or grandparents or elderly neighbors' connections to the past. And so I think that brings in a whole other dimension of conversations that can happen within families or across communities that might not otherwise happen spontaneously. So.
And I think, Liz, with the whole piece earlier when we were talking about the guides, I think that's why the kids in my classroom became so interested in being a guide or what a guide looks like and how that's chosen, because I think they got so excited about interviewing people in their neighborhood and collecting stories. And they saw this, if you're walking with somebody and being with somebody, how much information and the whole idea of different perspectives and different point of views are so important in their lives. So.
Great, thank you. And just as that, because I was very lucky to go to Georgia, but we did actually go on a walk call with the guides to kind of just get a bit of an experiential feel for what does it look like and how is it. And it was talking with the guides, having that experience, you kind of see that act of walking, of being at that pace, of slowing down, but being on a kind of a mission, if you like, together. It's just a very powerful experience, and that wouldn't maybe be my total lifestyle choice to do what Paul's doing, but you can see that he's having a pretty good time doing this project. And even in Tbilisi, he's like a magnet for incredibly interesting people. We also went to the National Geographic headquarters in Georgia and sat in on a round table for aspiring writers and journalists where Paul answered questions. It's really, really interesting for us, and I think will inform how we move forward with Out of Eden Learn to see Paul doing it, and then how could we take some of what he does and his craft and his art and facilitate that kind of experience for young people. I think it's really exciting. I'm mindful of the time, and for me it's fine to just carry on a bit since we lost some time. What questions, people have to go, please feel free. But if people want to stay just for a few more minutes, do people have questions or comments that they would like to kind of share before we close up?
I'm Jeannie, and I'm from Wisconsin again, and I wanted to ask Robert a question.
Sure.
What time is it in here right now?
Oh, it's 9:30 at night. So
Oh.
I'm 9 hours.
We really wanted to Skype with your classroom, and I don't think that's going to work out, is it?
No. I would love to Skype with some schools. There's a school from Abu Dhabi and a school from Singapore, so I think that's realistic. But I'd love to Skype with some classes in the U.S., but probably not going to happen.
All right, not going to happen, but do you work in a military school, or how do you get so many international children in your school?
What's the second part of your question?
Why do you have so many international children in your school? Is it a military school?
Okay. Yeah, I teach at the American International School of Chennai, which you can Google that. It's a Chennai was formerly known as Madras, and Chennai is a very big car factory city. So we have quite a few Koreans at our school. There's a Hyundai factory, a Suzuki factory, and a Renault factory. So we have a lot of French, a lot of Korean, a lot of Japanese, and then we have a U.S. consulate here. So it's not a like a Department of Defense school. It's an international school, and about 30 to 35 nationalities.
Well, thank you anyway. And are you sure you can't get your kids at 9:30 at night to come to school to Skype with us?
Say that again?
I just wanted to say, are you sure you can't get your students to come to school at 9:30 at night to Skype with us?
Oh, I don't know. I can work on that. I'll see. I think I can maybe get a couple of students. Great kids.
But actually, it would need to be, if your kids come early at 7 o'clock in the morning, it wouldn't have to be quite so late. So
not going to happen.
And actually, just one shout out there, because Rob was talking about the diversity within his classroom. And then we have many classrooms where there are ELL students, recent immigrants to particular countries, or very interesting heritages. And Carla had actually mentioned it in her email. I don't know if you saw our call out. If we're very interested in finding more sophisticated ways to map diversity within Out of Eden Learn, not just there's a dot on a map and there's Rob's classroom in Chennai and dot on the map, here's Pam's class here, or Jeannie's class here. So if any of you have time, or anybody else listening have time, I'll send out the instructions again, but we'd really like to know where kids think they have a special belonging or sense of affinity to. What would be the range of answers that they'd give to that, so that we can start to see what kind of variation would we need to take into account. We're collaborating with some experts on mapping who are in the Harvard community to really try and be creative and do something really fun with that. And then, again, hopefully deepen the learning experiences for the kids as well at the same time. Any other questions or comments before and I'll just encourage you guys to get in touch with one another if you want to carry on the conversation.
Cool. Liz, I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm always curious to see what other walking parties are doing outside of my group. Is there any way you can maybe share a bit more projects or stuff through your Facebook page or other ways, maybe some more samples of student work?
Yeah, so I mean, some of this is a bandwidth issue, but we definitely want to increase the visibility of student work. And it's worth saying that Paul is interested in doing that too. And we're also interested in having like featured student work that would get more recognition, like through Paul's voice as well as our own, kind of in a way to kind of make, you know, as an incentive as well as a way of sharing good practice. Like as some of you have said, it's very thrilling for kids to have Paul recognize their work, acknowledge it, or to know that a wider audience, a real world audience, is actually seeing their work. So that's something we fully intend to kind of do more of moving forward. We can't just let people roam in and out of different walking parties because of, you know, our regulations from the university, but also some of the magic of keeping that a safe space kind of would be lost if everybody was all over the place. So to answer your question, yes, we want to do more. Secondly, through your good example, we'd like to get our educational forum a little bit more dynamic, because we really rely on teachers sharing out some of the stuff they're doing, some of the ideas they've had. In many ways, that I'm hearing from teachers is what they'd like to see, and then through that they can see examples of student work. So our galleries, Instagram, features, the forum, these are ways we're trying to do, and yeah, anybody's got other ideas of what we could do. Bear in mind, some of this is a question of how much time we have, actually. But I think moving forward, now we've got the next learning journey up, we need to do more of that.
Thank you.
And any other last questions? And then I think we will have to say goodbye.
I got one last question, but I don't want to hog the time, so.
No, go
ahead.
Yeah, I think you're good. You've got, yes, you can, Robert. Go ahead.
Okay. I was wondering if any schools are connecting Paul's Walk with service learning. My students were quite interested in the whole, the time he spent in Syria or in Turkey with the refugees. And our school's trying to beef up our service learning program, and I'm wondering if anyone out there is doing any connection to service learning to his walk.
So a couple of things spring to mind. So we did have a teacher, Laura Hamrock, who was pursuing getting her kids connected with kids in Syrian refugee camps, and the kids had written letters, and they'd actually raised money as well because they were very concerned through Paul's reporting at the state there. I set up some initial contacts, but I don't actually know how much progress was made there, because actually it's quite difficult to coordinate direct work into there. We did have a contact through the UN that we were trying to push. And I will say, from our part at Project Zero, we talked about this. We can't take on kind of as well as the education mission, like fundraising and what have you. So that's the one that I've heard of. But on another way, increasingly we're interested in more grassroots projects coming up out of Eden Learn, and having a more participatory research kind of theme for some of the older students. And that would tilt us a little bit more into doing what you might call service learning. I don't know quite how you're defining it, but projects that are more actively engaging with communities. Yes. We see that as a natural next step a bit, because our initial curriculum is really about getting kids to notice, to think, to listen, but then that begs the question, and then what do we want them to do with those dispositions or sensitivities about the world? So this is something we're very interested in, and we don't have concrete things to share, but yes, I think it's true. And in fact, what we could do is put a message out to the group to see, are there teachers who have actively tied it up, and are they giving? I know some schools have thought about maybe giving credit. And just segueing off this, we're interested in having alumni of Out of Eden Learn kind of do service in terms of helping and guiding students who are coming up through Out of Eden Learn. And I know some schools have thought about giving kids some kind of credit or recognizing that as a kind of a service, if you like, and that's within our online community. So that's another idea we have. But Rob, do you have any particular ideas yourself?
Not at the moment. I mean, we could go out our school gates, and there's, we don't necessarily have to look overseas to do stuff. We have a lot of stuff right outside our school gates that we can get involved in. But I'm just curious what other schools might be doing and what connections they might be making. And we're at the very early stages of trying to get our program going and how to define what service is and what service learning is. And so I'm always curious to see what other teachers are doing, and I agree that I'm hopeful that the Educator Forum will be used more often by teachers, and more teachers will be sharing stuff.
Yeah, that would be great. And I'll also just give a shout out under the PZ resources. Jessica Fay, who's a doctoral student and works with her, she's posted the overview of her new curriculum, and she's going to shortly be setting off her specialized learning journey. That has a slight more community thinking about what needs to be doing aspect to it, which we're excited about. So I invite people to check that out and see what she's doing.
Rob, I think too, it's not service learning, but one of the things that my kids have generated from this, I mentioned earlier that I'm doing an after-school club 2 days a week, the Vagabonding Club, and in that club, and it was kids' initiative. They wanted to look more at global literature and really look closely at different perspectives, and we also do international films as well. But one of the books that they really liked, it was perfect for 6th grade, is Camel Rider. So in my Vagabonding Club, I have 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. The book was called Camel Rider, actually. Here we go. Disappears. And then the other movie that they loved was called Children of Heaven. And I think this was set in either Iran or Iraq. But all of these are like age appropriate. So I went and just started looking at some different films for some of the kids because they're multi-level learners, and different books. And it's amazing how they're connecting some of these books now with Out of Eden and the whole idea of some kids having language barriers and how we can overcome some of those barriers and still get to know somebody through movement or through body language. So it's been very interesting for them. So I know it's not community service, but
that sounds really, really interesting. And if we can connect, maybe I'd like to hear more about your Vagabonding Club and how you organize it. That's a possible thing that I can do next year for those students who are really, really interested in the project. And so many clubs and organizations here. It's very competitive. I think I'd have a group of students who would take strong interest in that. So maybe after this hangout, we can Shay can put us in touch.
Great. All right. I think maybe we should wrap things up, but I really would love you guys to come back for a future Google Plus Hangout, because I feel like we're only scratching the surface here on some of the ideas that are there. We are going to be thinking ahead to different themed Google Plus Hangouts, just to give a bit of focus to the conversation. So if people have ideas on what they'd really like to dive deep into a conversation on, please send us your suggestions. But otherwise, I really want to thank you for the incredible work that you're all doing. For me, I'm a former teacher, part of the great joy about Read and Learn is just learning from the practice of other teachers and seeing the inspiring stuff you're doing with your students. So thank you, and I hope to carry on the conversation soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.